What's up? How you doing? Here we are, Sunday evening. Beautiful day today. Beautiful, beautiful day. There's a nice plane flying up there. I think LAX is busy because it's doing circles. So it's really nice out. I have a magazine here. First time I've bought this one. I think it's Outdoor Vehicle Recreation, OVR. And they have some nice Jeeps in here and, off-road stuff, which I'm a huge fan of. Pushing the limits. This guy has a 2003 Subaru Forester XTS's. It says unbelievable overland journey. I don't know, that thing to me looks like it's going to get stuck. I got stuck one time, Barango Springs. So I didn't have the Suburban. I had a BMW, and I saw this nice area. I was with my family, and I saw it was really hot that day too, I must say. Very hot. It was over 100 degrees, and I saw this nice area for videotaping. So I parked the car, right where I was. I got out, grabbed the tripod. I went into this area, did a little walking around, investigating, exploring, combination of the two. Shot some video, and I was sweating. It was like intense, the heat. And then I said, all right, good enough. I'm gonna go. So I get back to the car. I put the stuff in the trunk. I get in, and the tires are spinning in the back. So apparently the sand was very soft. I sank in it. The tires are, sports car tires, and couldn't get out. Had nothing to dig with, had nothing to put under the tires, and I tried everything. I tried putting some sticks under there, nothing. I tried digging with my hands, and the more I dug with my hands, the soil, the sand was so hot that you can only do a little bit at a time. So I was like, yeah, I wish I had a shovel. But I didn't have a shovel. So as I'm digging, a car pulls up, and Mexican guys come out, and they say, what's happening here? I said, well, you see, I'm stuck. And really nice guys. If not for them, I would still be there stuck. I really appreciate them stopping. So they said, oh, we'll be right back. They went down the street, and within 10 minutes they were back with a rope, a thick rope. And they tied it underneath my vehicle, and they tied the rest of it to the back, and they pulled me out. Very, very happy. I gave them a few bucks. Should have given them probably a lot more, but I gave them enough at the time, and they were very, very helpful. So I see that as a favor for me to push forward down the line to someone else. That happened years ago. Was at a Bobby Vinton concert, and we went to leave. I put the key in the ignition, and the battery on my other Suburban was dead. Nothing, not even a little clicking. Somebody was there, gave me a jump. And then another time, I think we had a pediatrician's appointment for not for me, for the kids though. And they went in there, they had the exam done, everything. We go to leave, and it wouldn't start. Just out of nowhere, a car pulls up next to me, truck, and a guy looked at me, and I think it was his buddy. He's like, you need a jump? Yeah, it was a few of them in there, I remember. I go, I need a jump. And they gave me a jump. Within 10 seconds, I was out of there. So after that, I went and bought my own, not jumper cables. I have jumper cables there, 1970s technology. I actually have a little, jump start thing, and you put it into your battery and it starts it up immediately. I bought one of those, and a good one too. So one time I was shopping at Ralph's, and I came out, and it was a thin black dude with his wife, and I found out after that he had just come back from cancer treatment. So I saw he couldn't start the car, and I asked him, I go, this is me paying back. I would pay back anyway, even if nobody helped me. But it's even more incentive now that somebody did help me to pay back. And I went up to him and I said, what is it, the battery? He goes, I think so. So I pull out my gadget and I start him up, boom. I don't know, it was like maybe 12 seconds. Car starts up, thanked me like 56 times. I said, no problem. And he actually went to give me some money. I said, no, I don't need that. That's, you know, and then his wife, she said to me that he had just done a dose of chemo. So I felt very, I don't know, I felt touched that she mentioned that. You know, probably said, this guy helped us, let me say something here, you know, to let him know what the difficulty of the situation really was. It wasn't just the battery that died, but her husband wasn't feeling well at all. Very nice guy. So anyway, now if I see somebody stopped and I see it's a battery, I will stop and help. You know, that's the way it works. Somebody helps you, you help them, they help someone else. So anyway, I have a East Brother. East Brother. It's a red lager, spelled with an A, should be an O, double G-E-R. So this is made in Richmond, California. It's a California beer. It's East Brother Beer Company. 4.6% alcohol. So it's like a light alcohol beer, not, you know, I mean, they have the IPAs 8, 9, 10% alcohol. This one is a 4.6. And remember, always drink in moderation. Do not drink and drive, because what will happen is you will wrap yourself around a telephone pole or a big oak tree, or you'll take a few people down with you. So anyway, always in moderation. Never drink and drive. Unnecessary. So anyway, let's try it out. A little bit is more than enough. Solid steel. East Brother. You know, the colors are good looking colors for a beer. Kind of reminds me of Red Stripe. That's a good beer. Jamaican style lager. So if you're interested in this, eastbrotherbeer.com. Crisp, good beer, good evening to have a beer. You have too many, you can't find the front door to get into your house. You'll be going around in circles trying to feel your way in, and neighbors will be videotaping you. So yeah, it's a good beer. It's a local brand, you know, nothing fancy. It's not from Germany or Brussels or, you know, I don't know, what's another beer country? Belgium. So I'm fascinated with these type of vehicles. Fascinated. I like the Jeeps, rugged Jeeps, not the wimpy ones that the post office has. Not those. I'm talking about the ones with the big wide tires. Maybe they have Falcons on or something. Nice groove. I prefer the manual. Nice stick shift. You know, I like stick shift, but sometimes in traffic it gets on your nerves. I used to have was it a 4-speed? No, 5-speed Mazda 626 many years ago when I was in my prime. And it was fun to drive, you know, little, you know, cheap car, up and down, side to side, you know, whatever. But when you hit traffic, it was very annoying. Very annoying. You know, up and down with the left leg. You felt like you needed a knee replacement surgery. So, but I do miss it. You know, sometimes I go out into the Mojave, and I say, other than thinking, hey, maybe I'll run into Bruce Springsteen here, I say I wish I had a manual transmission right now. But I've driven, I had a few cars in the past, two. that were manual. But I really like the new rugged Jeeps, but they're all automatic. I don't know. I mean, maybe they still make some of them in a stick shift, but I don't know. Every time I go to a dealership and I look, they're all automatic. I don't think anybody knows how to drive a manual anymore. That's why they don't carry them. Imagine you go to a place like maybe a foreign country and you want to rent a car as an American who has no idea how to drive a stick shift, because most don't. You know, we live here, we haven't acquired that knowledge. And then you go to a foreign country and the dealership, the rental place, has only manual transmission cars. You know what you're going to do? You're going to burn the clutch. And then you're going to bring it back and they're going to get annoyed with you because you don't know how to drive stick shift. It used to be, back in the old days, you learned on stick shift. The old days, way back. Nowadays, everything's easy. It's this, so you hit a button. Like on the Suburban, I had to get used to it. I'm used to, you know, like at the steering wheel here, and you pull, and then you go down and you go to D, and this thing here took me a while. I was always going, you know, trying to find the automatic shifter, and I had to get used to pushing that button. It took a bit. I don't want to say it took months, but it took about 2 weeks or so. Now, when I go into another car that has this, now I'm looking for the button. My brain has been programmed now to look for buttons rather than do one of these, and I like that. You know, you pull it back and down. I like that. My father was very serious with that. He would be like, don't get near this. It's like a very important feature in the car. Like if you got near it with your head, bump, whatever, because back in the old days, no seatbelt, so you always, like, you know, getting near the radio, and my father's hand would immediately go up. He'd stop you. He'd say, "This, don't get near this." You know, and my father, you know, back then nobody thought about seatbelts. We were morons. We didn't wear seatbelts. Now, if you don't wear a seatbelt, you're a bigger moron, because now what's the excuse? You're too cool, and it's all peer pressure. Believe me. You know, if you come from a country that they don't wear seatbelts and you want to wear a seatbelt, the peer pressure of your friends is enough to stop you. It's called tribal thinking. Everybody thinks the same way. So in a country where everybody, or most everybody, wears a seatbelt, you feel like the oddball out if you don't. So it has that pressure. You'd be surprised how many hassles a seatbelt saves you. You know, like you're doing 30, you hit something without a seatbelt, especially if you're not paying attention. You'll go right into the steering wheel, knock out your front teeth, maybe hit up here, cut your eyes open. You know, this area here is like a blade. But now, you know, you hit something and you really don't notice it because you have your seatbelt on. You hit it and you go, oh, all right, damage the front, but I'm okay. Okay, I'm getting a text here. I have to respond to this. Yeah, even slow stuff, 20 miles an hour. When you hit at 20 and you abruptly stop, everything in the car that's not tied down is still going at 20. So you're hitting everything, your head, whatever, at 20 miles an hour. That's painful. You know, and you're doing 30, 40. Now, when you're talking high speeds, like maybe you're doing like 85, 90, and you hit head on, chances are, even with a seatbelt, you're not going to make it. But if it's a rollover or something like that, and you know you're doing 85, but the car doesn't come to a complete stop, an abrupt stop, and you get your seatbelt on, then chances are you will survive it and minor injuries. But if you don't have it on, you can get thrown out of the car and get run over by your own car. That's betrayal. But I remember downtown LA, I remember one time I was reading a story there. It was an SUV with 5 kids in it. So you had 4 of them, they had their seatbelts on, and one, I don't know, tough guy decided, I'm not wearing this, I'm too tough for this. So what happened was they got into an accident, and the person without the seatbelt got thrown out, got the top roof there, broke the glass. The impact threw him out of the car, and he got run over by another car. Got killed. The only one. The other one's minor injuries. So, like I said, you are a moron if you're like in 2025 and you're not wearing your seatbelt. You got stupid excuses. The older people are like, I can't. It's constrictive. It makes me feel like I'm having a heart attack. No, it's not. That's a lie. You're lying. It's not making you feel like you're having a heart attack. Plus, you would think seatbelts would be cool. Race car drivers wear them. You want to be cool. They're cool. But anyway, you got these wimpy guys. They always find excuses, especially early on. I remember early on when I started wearing my seatbelt. When I would get into it, I'm thinking specifically of a person, and his name was Mark, but nobody knows last name. So, my friend Mark, I would get in there and put the seatbelt on, and you're like getting ready. He's looking at you. He's like, hey, he goes, what? You don't trust my driving? Yeah, that, I don't trust it. No, I don't trust your driving, and I don't trust the other people's driving. And not only that, I just don't trust human nature, Anybody can be in an accident. It's not a matter of trust. Not a matter of trust. I mean, what's it have to do with trust? Sometimes you may not notice it. It's not that I don't trust you as a person. I trust you, I give you $5. I trust you that you'll keep that $5 and give it to me back another time. But when they say you don't trust me when it comes to driving, what does that have to do with it? Your brain is only as good as the neurons firing back and forth. You may not notice something. What do you think? If people get into accidents, they're untrustable people? They're not trustworthy? We had an accident up here the other day. It was an Asian lady, kind of short, and I think dude was I don't know, it doesn't matter what they were, but I'm just saying that she was very petite, and she didn't get injured. She had her seatbelt on and everything, but I'm sure both of them felt like they were paying attention. It's an accident. That's why they call it accident. It's an accident because even though you think you're paying attention, you have a moment where you're not paying attention. You're distracted. You're looking, something going by, look at that, and then all of a sudden, boom. So it's not trust. What's trust have to do with it? But the truth is that no, usually I don't trust you. Usually. Depends what it is, too. What else can we say here? It's starting to get dark a little bit. What time is it? 7:48. 7:48. Went out last night, ate. Went to an Italian restaurant. I had fish. Branzino. Nothing to do with The Godfather. Branzino. It was good. Had fish. What else did I have? I had some other stuff too. They had like some kind of green vegetable stuff. Like they had asparagus too. So it was very good. I was gonna get the steak, but then I felt like fish. So got the fish. It was a nice night. You know what they cook with that nice, that wood that gives that nice aroma when you cook with it. So they had that there. I almost want to take a few logs, bring them home and light them here. So there's something, I don't know, I'm trying to, think about it logically, but there's 3 parrots that fly by every once in a while. 3 parrots that look like they're from an exotic island in the South Pacific, right? So I drop off my daughter to get the morning bus. I come home and I'm right here. I'm in the back and I hear, like intense bird chirping, and I can tell they're flying because the noise is shifting. So I go, what is that? So I'm waiting to see it. I could tell it's coming from the back, and all of a sudden I'm looking at the sky and 3 parrots, green, like deep green, flew overhead, and they did like a maneuver like Tom Cruise in Top Gun, one of those, all three of them. So I go, wow, that looks like somebody owns those. I have never seen green parrots in my neighborhood. So today I hear the same sound, but I'm in the front. Same three. I'm assuming it was the same three. I mean, how many parrots can we have that look like that, right? Three green. So I watched them. They did a couple of, flybys, and then they went up to the palm tree and they sat there. So I don't know if they're trained parrots, like the pigeons. You know the pigeons? I had an uncle like that with pigeons. My uncle had, I don't know, 100 pigeons. He had them in a, like Mike Tyson used to do. And then he would open up the cages, and all of a sudden the pigeons would get ready. And then he had some kind of duster, and he would give a signal, like they do at the airports, and the pigeons would come out and take off, fly into the air. And then he would do some kind of other signal, and all the way from above, the pigeons would see him, and they would do these free fall things where they would just dive down, and then he would switch it again, they would fly. So, and then he would do a waving, and they would recognize that as it's time to land. I don't know how you train a pigeon like that. The brain of a pigeon is tiny. It's got to be the size of an acorn, if that. And yet, they understand that when he does these movements with it's like little flags, right? That they're supposed to behave a certain way. Then they land, and they go into the thing themselves. Try and do that with an ordinary pigeon at the park. You can't even get within 10 feet of them. The second you go to move, they flap away. So I have no idea how you initially train them to behave that way. I don't know. So, but it's impressive to me. I don't know. So he gave them up. I talked to him a while back, and I said, "What happened to the pigeons?" He said, "I gave them up." There's two birds flying by right now. I find birds very interesting. I have a whole book on birds. Especially those crazy eagles that can tear anything apart. Eagles, very vicious. Birds of prey, they call them. Like canaries, they do nothing, right? They just sit there all day. Canaries are good if you have a gas leak. That's if you wake up in time to notice that the canaries are dead and you need to get out of the house. I mean, they may die, and then you may die with them like a half hour later. But, if you're awake and you're kind of sitting there watching, television, and then you see the canary fall over and die, and then you got to think maybe there's a gas leak. Although now not now, they've been doing it forever, but they mix that sulfur smell, because gas is odorless. Imagine that, odorless. You're sitting there, you have no idea what's going on. You think you're breathing fresh air, and you're breathing natural gas. So they added that in there. There'll be a new worker for the gas company, and he just can't remember if he added it or not, so he doesn't. And then all of a sudden he didn't put the sulfur gas in there, and there's a few leaks around the city, and people just end up dropping dead. But yeah, now we have technology. Like if you have a smoke detector, a lot of them have a carbon monoxide detector. One time we had a false alarm. This is like 8 years ago, 9 years back. In the middle of the night, I hear, you have, a carbon monoxide leak. I was like, oh. But I go, how come you're the only one saying it? We had ours, right? Which our bedroom doesn't have any kind of device to leak carbon monoxide. It was not the winter, it was springtime. Anyway, all the other detectors, the one in the hall, the one in the kids' rooms downstairs, none of them said anything. So I said maybe it's a malfunction, and it turned out that something was wrong with the detector. Yeah, when I was growing up, we didn't have this kind of stuff to save your life. You know, even smoke detectors were kind of new back then. You know, and not everybody had them. Now everybody has smoke detectors at least. But when I was a kid, you know, you're just like, okay, whatever happens, happens in life. I think people back then were more rugged. You know, I think the further on we go, the wimpier society gets. And the pandemic taught me that. You know, I realized that if such a thing were to go on long enough where supermarkets would run out of food, and they would run out in 3 days if they weren't supplied. But most people in society have no idea how to survive in that kind of a situation. We don't know how to grow our own food. You know, canning, jars, you know, they would preserve stuff. That, nobody knows how to do that. Even basic stuff like growing a crop, if you had the land. But we live in concrete jungles now, so there's no land to grow on. I mean, the only people that can survive, it would be like everybody dies except farmers and people that can hunt. You know, that's my weakness. I mean, I can plant things. I can do tomatoes, things like that. But, you know, and how much, you know, can you survive with tomato? How long can you survive? You make it to tomato salad. Where's the protein? But anyway, I could do that. But hunting, I have zero experience hunting. I've never hunted. You know, like I always say, I could go on that show alone. Yeah, I could survive on that show as long as they brought me my meals. You know, I could survive on the loneliness thing. I could go a long time on loneliness. I run on loneliness. I'm good with that. So I could survive like that. Cold, I could deal with that. I've actually slept in the cold. You know, hiking in there, I could do that. But hunting, now if there was a place where there was a lot of fish, I could probably do it. I get in there with my fishing rod. As long as I had, you know, a good fishing rod, endless supply of hooks, the weights, tons of those, you know, bait. Although with bait, you could find all sorts of things for bait. But, you know, if I was maybe stranded and there was a nice river full of fish, I think I could make it then. But if I had to hunt like moose or gazelle, I don't think I could make it. First of all, I'm not knowledgeable on the gutting process, you know, the butchering process. I don't have any idea how to do that. There are people that know, you know, you watch them on YouTube. They will skin the animal, remove the skin, let it dry for leather. Then they will cut, remove all the entrails. A lot of people keep them. I don't know what they do. They cook them, they eat them, I don't know. And then you have somebody else comes in. They know exactly where to cut with a nice sharp knife. And they get the steaks cut like that. And, you know, as long as you have a nice refrigerator or it's cold outside, you know, like you're living in a place where it's, you know, below 30, you can survive. But I don't have any of those skills. And I've never killed an animal, you know, bigger than a, I don't know, spider. Let me see what this says. So, yeah, I couldn't imagine, I don't know, killing a deer. How much of that are you going to eat? That means you killed a deer and 85% of it went to waste. It's like you killed an animal for no reason. You know, now that in the old days, the Aboriginal people, right, they would kill something and eat everything, even the toenails. They would eat everything. Nothing went to waste. So that was good because you survived at the expense of the animal's life, but at least you didn't toss it, you know, away to rot. But yeah, I always wanted to go on that show alone. Like I said, I could do all that. I could do the tent. I could do the, you know, walking around looking for stuff. I could start the fire. I could do all of that. The only thing I couldn't do is create the food necessary to survive. I wouldn't be able to do that because I don't have the skill. I would literally have to hang out with Mad Jack from Grizzly Adams for like a year, and I would watch him and learn, because he was a mountain man. Mountain men can survive. If they found a guy from the mid 1800s, they brought him back through time with a DeLorean, and they said to him, you know what, we'll put you on a show alone, that guy would make it. That guy would go on and on. He'd never quit. We're talking about now people that train to get on that show, and they do this and that. Back then it was a way of life. You didn't train for anything. That was just it. That was a way of life. They collected all the wheat and made flour. That's a crow. They knew how to fish. They knew how to, butcher animals. We don't know any of that stuff. And now we depend on the kindness of others to feed us. Farmers, they grow stuff, ship it to the supermarkets, we go buy it. But yeah, the pandemic showed me that we don't have any kind of skill. We're wimpy people now. And the more the years go by, the more I realize that every generation is a little bit wimpier than the one before. Like in my grandparents' time, during the Great Depression, it took a lot of toughness to get through that. Nowadays, it's like your iPhone dies on you and you can't make it through the day. Different mentality. So hopefully nothing happens in the future that tests our ability to survive, because if that were to happen, we would fail. We wouldn't make it. Nobody has, even like I have tons of books. I read them on how to do things if you're in the wild, right? It's one thing to read it, it's another thing to actually do it. Hands-on. There's no university in the world that equates to hands-on training. Universities, you go through the motion, you graduate, you get a little paper, you go, I went there. But you really don't learn what you have to learn until you get on the job and you get hands-on training. Which, if that's the case, you eliminate the university, get somebody out of high school. They should do an experiment like that. They should get 10 high school seniors that graduated, just high school, and then they should go get 10 guys that graduated Harvard and put them in a job where they get hands-on training, whatever the occupation may be, and then go revisit them after 5 or 6 years and see if the college graduates are more ahead or is it the same. I will be willing to bet that it'll be about the same. I know we spent all this money sending kids to school, college and everything, but I'm thinking that if you were to send somebody out of high school at a facility, whatever the job may be, whatever, excluding lawyers and doctors, things like that. I know lawyers, Abe Lincoln taught himself how to be a lawyer, but I think if you, like business, for example, or what else is it, economics, things like that. I think if you put somebody relatively intelligent that's a senior and you say, listen, forget college. We're going to let you work at the Bank of America there at the top for 5 years. We'll show you all the stuff you need to know. And then we got a counterpart of yours, but he went to Harvard. And we're going to do the same thing with him. And at the end, we're going to see if there's any difference. But it has to be significant. And I'm thinking there's not going to be that big of a difference. So my bride's sending me a text telling me food is coming, but not yet. Should be here in like 50 minutes. So we still have time. The birds at night, they fly by, wrapping it up. It's an interesting thing to be a bird. You're bored here, you get up, you fly, you go somewhere else. And they really, I don't think, have enemies in the city. Who comes after them? An eagle? I don't know. I've seen hawks though in LA. Yeah, I've seen hawks fly by. So, you know, they can go a few hundred miles. This metal keeps the beer cold for a long time. Beer is as cold now as when I poured it. So, what else? So we had some concrete work done on the property. Not a big area, a small area. And it's amazing how many bags of concrete you need just for a small section. 75 bags, which they're the 65 pounders, right? You know, usually, you know, you get the 80-pound bags, but 65 pounds, right, times 75, that's about 5,000 pounds. That's like the weight of my SUV, and only for a little area, you know. So yeah, I remember when I was a kid, my father would, you know, do stuff with concrete. He would, you know, fix a wall or something like that, and I was always blown away with the amount of concrete necessary just to do a little area. You know, now look at those big trucks, you know, the ones that spin and mix with, you know, so the concrete doesn't get stiff. I was like, I wonder how many of those trucks are necessary to do the Hoover Dam. You know, back then they have a guy mixing each bag by hand. I've been to that Hoover Dam many times. In the old days, you could drive over it. I've been going since then. First time I went to Hoover Dam, I was driving my little motor car, and I had a bad signal. I was coming over Boulder City, bad signal, and I was very staticky, but I did hear the brand new one by Van Halen, and I was like, oh, I gotta hear that. So I crank it up with the static and everything, and as I'm coming around all these sharp turns up there, all of a sudden Pound Cake by Van Halen came on. So every time I hear Pound Cake by Van Halen, I always remember that I heard it there for the first time. So anyway, I may be back doing laundry tonight, so I have to keep up with it. So right now I have to go put another load in. Been using Tide, so I have to get off for a moment, and maybe I'll be back again later. You never know. Capiche?